What's in your mind for you and for I'm trying to decide when I look in your eyes, yeah. I mean besides, but your feelings inside you, I'm messing up my mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, episode 19. What's going on, brother?
What's up?
You guys are listening to Inside the RV. This is a podcast about entrepreneurship, self-development, work ethic, and becoming the best version of yourself. I'm glad you guys could join us again. You're joined by your two hosts. I'm Jacob Moore.
I'm Ryan Ramirez.
Together, we are an artist and artist-manager duo, and we're out here to tell you guys a little bit about our come-up and share things as they happen to us. And we're going to jump right in, as Ryan said a little bit earlier. Hey, we're going to hit you in the motherfucking mouth! No, but seriously, let's jump right in. Look. There's a lot of times where you need to be completely honest with yourself, especially if you're on an entrepreneurial journey and you're trying to achieve success in something. And I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty nervous about this episode. You might hear me stutter and stuff. Like I was telling Ryan before this, like I just took a deep breath and everything because I don't think I've been super honest with myself lately. And I probably expressed that to you a couple times, Ryan. And It's just like, it's hard when you're going through some shit that affects you personally because that can kind of blind you to what the truth really is. Yeah. It'll make you feel sorry for yourself. It'll make you look at people in different ways. You might look at someone and envy them, or you might, there's just so much that can go through your head. And so I think it's important to, number one, have a fucking absolutely rockin' circle. Like Ryan's part of my like circle, you know what I'm saying? Like that I could talk to and say, hey man, like, can you be real with me? Can I be real with you? And stuff like that. I think that is so crucial. And yeah, you really need to be honest with yourself. And that's something that I've been trying to do over the past couple weeks. So I'm kind of glad we're getting into that. But in your entrepreneurial journey or whatever it is, your journey towards success, your mind is going to be clouded by tons and tons of emotions because you're going to have to wake up every day and try to fuel yourself and propel yourself. And you're going to see things on social media that might piss you off. And you're going to see things that might motivate you. And there's just so many things. And we talk about this all the time. Like on social media, there's so many things coming at your brain. Yeah. There's that dopamine response when you get all those likes, and then you go on and you see some guy who's in better shape than you, or some girl who's so hot you're like, I'm never gonna get her, or whatever it is, or you're like, I'm never gonna make as much money as this guy. There's so many emotions, and I think that's something that we deal with today, that even though we have the access to technology, I think it's a little bit harder mentally and emotionally for people to really get going, because it's like, okay, like class of 1982, my dad, I just gave away his age. Class of 82, like my dad, he was always like, yeah, we didn't have phones. Like if you were bored, you were bored, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, now you're consistently and constantly stimulated, but the expense of that is that there's almost too much information coming at you, and it's hard to look at things in an honest way because everyone's just projecting some bullshit on social media. Usually, it's the highlight reel,
But I think you can use that to your advantage because think about it, if everybody was so addicted to their phones, or they're distracted and getting pulled in different directions and stuff. Yeah. Now think about it. Think about how rare it is for somebody to not do that. If you just discipline yourself and like have that awareness to not do it, you already know you're ahead. And if you do that consistently, because you know that you're like one of the only people that are like not getting distracted and pulled in different directions, and you are able to focus in and like laser focus your whole thing. And it's like I've realized too, like in the journey, it's hard because you got to be like laser focused on your mission, but different phases, you're going to feel different ways, like from different phases and everything. So it's like, it's so hard to like keep that consistent, like monotonous grind to like that goal you're trying to get to. But now you're entering a new phase where let's say you meet new people, you meet a girl or something, and your feelings start to amplify for like certain other things. And like, it's taking away that focus from your mission, and then you get to the next phase and something else comes up, and now you know what I'm saying. So there's always like that. It's like it almost made me like feel really grateful for the times that like nothing's changing in my life and everything's kind of stagnant, because I feel like those are the best times to like go in and grind like fucking crazy, because it's easier in a way, because like things are more predictable and you're on your routine. You know what I'm saying? Like it took for me to like enter different phases of when it got harder to do that, to like be grateful for those stagnant times,
I can kind of relate to that because like I feel like I just got out of college last December, so about a year ago, 11 months ago. And so it's taken me almost a year to actually slow down and go, all right, man, you don't got 5 classes to go to. You don't have I work from home. So it's like, you don't have a job to drive to. You don't have like this person hitting you up to party or whatever it is. Or, you don't have these millions of things going on. And I feel fucking weird saying it too. I feel like a bitch because it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, life can be so fucking overwhelming with distractions. And like, as I get older, I realize what my mom said about like my mom has like 3 friends, and I was asking my parents, I'm like, why do you guys have like 3 friends? You guys have like, no, you don't go out and do shit. And my parents are always just like, it's just easier. Like we just, we do our own thing. And like, I'm realizing that more and more and everything. To touch on what you were saying, I'm just now beginning to be okay with those phases of familiarity. Like you were saying, like right now, all of 2020 since March has been familiar and has been like, okay, I'm at home. Number one, I'm at home. I work from home. I do everything off my laptop. I work out in my backyard. My day today is this. But I've had this constant like shaking, like Grim Reaper over my head, like, no, like expect this to happen. Expect a million things to happen. And it's like, dude, Jacob, you're in a period of stagnation in terms of like physically moving and doing things and going places. And this now is the time to really sit down and get it. And one thing I've realized too, like quarantine has kind of helped me realize, and maybe a lot of people can relate to this, the quarantine helped me realize what I really do and don't want to do. You set up all these goals, you see all this shit on social media, you talk to all your friends, whatever, but it's like, look, if you didn't accomplish the goal during quarantine, or at least start towards it that you said you've been wanting to do, you're never gonna fucking do it. You're never gonna fucking do it. Don't bullshit me.
That's the ultimate like. Yeah, that's like the ultimate like setup for you to win right there.
Yeah, and that's and that leads into a conversation about just like taking advantage of like any situation. You know what I'm saying? Like looking for good in any situation, looking for things to appreciate. And so like during the quarantine,
careful with this, you're hitting that. I think
it's all I'll delete it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. But so the quarantine has kind of helped me realize like, damn, maybe 19 out of those 20 things on my goal list I didn't really like want. And I kind of just set them up because I'm a go-getter and I'm a yes man and I want to get this and I want to do this, and like it kind of helped me refine and realize like, yo, maybe these 20 things weren't important, but these 4 are so important to me, important. And you're right, like those periods of stagnation, quote unquote stagnation, that kind of has like a negative meaning in some regard. But for the most part, these periods of where things are the same and are familiar, the monotony, those are actually, like you were saying, those are great opportunities to sit back, stand, plant your feet into the ground. And that was something that in that Shawn Mendes Netflix thing I just told you I watched. Shawn Mendes, I don't know if it's new. What's it called? In Wonder?
I think it's new,
the Shawn Mendes documentary just came out on Netflix, and he was like, sometimes he said something along the lines of like, sometimes you just gotta like look at your own 2 feet and be like, okay, I'm here right now. Like right now.
Dope,
And what you were saying, those periods of the monotony, the stagnation, like this whole quarantine that everyone's experiencing, and to everybody listening, like I'm starting to realize this too. Like everybody's feeling like shit right now, like mentally, emotionally, like it's hard. The fucking government keeping us in, and businesses aren't open, and there's nothing to do. Like I wish I could go out and get a drink and like unwind and meet people and socialize and stuff. Whatever, our lives could be worse, but. It's a tough time for everybody, but use this period to look for things to appreciate and to really hone in on those couple things that are truly most important to you. This is the time right now to sit down and look in the mirror and say, what do I need help with? Like what areas am I being challenged in? This is the time to do that. And, we're hopefully never going to have a period like this ever again. So for those of you who feel like you need that self-reflection, I sure as hell do. Take advantage of this period and really take time like to sit in the morning and like do the shit that Ryan does, which is like read, write down your goals, really like reflect and visualize what you want to do, because
I was psyched on that, by the way. The meditating and like
really
the meditating and the visualizing, like as a meditating, was like probably the greatest thing I've ever done in my lifetime. But I think like the past like week and a half, like I've just like kind of been like whatever about it, and then I realized like shit was kind of declining for me. like my confidence and everything. So I'm like, that going back to the self-awareness, like I'm self-aware to know like, okay, I was slacking on this and look what happened, the results. So I'm gonna be honest with myself and say, you know what, I got to pick that back up. And not pick it back up when this is done, like after this and 3 days from now. Like, no, you got to do it now, because that shit compounds over time. And it's just like, it's honestly really scary, like how procrastinating like catches up with you.
Yeah.
It's really scary. Like, because every time, think about it, every time that you procrastinate on something, you have the same feeling each time. Like you feel like you feel it's like the new feeling every time. It's like you feel the same way you felt Tuesday night, but now it's Friday night, but you feel like, I can just wait till tomorrow. And you felt the exact same way Tuesday night. And so 3 years from now, you have that same exact feeling, and all that shit compounded in those 3 years of every time you did that.
Yeah.
And then, but you don't even feel it. You don't realize it until you're old enough to regret it, to look back and regret it. So it's like, that's like the sad part about it. Yeah. But I don't know. That procrastinating is really like the devil, I feel like.
Dog, you're like this. Like, I want to cry right now. Like, you're describing my life.
Well, I think it's everyone's life.
You're like describing my life right now. It's I mean, I'll be totally fucking transparent on this podcast. I've just had a really fucking horrible time lately, like in my life over the past like 2 months. Haven't really gotten to talk to anybody about it. For the most part, I don't have a lot of escape from like things that are going on, and it's just a real fucking tough time. And it's like, dude, what you just said about like it compounds, the next thing you know, it's like Wednesday and you're feeling the same thing. Like, bro, I've been waking up every single morning with a sense of urgency and some anxiety to accomplish certain things. And I've just been like sleeping in, eating like shit, haven't worked out, like, and I feel like a fucking hypocrite because we put on this podcast and I know that we have a consistent listener base, and I know that, you know, in a way those people are relying on us. And it's kind of like, that makes me further feel like shit.
Well, but
you know,
but I don't look at it that way, because I look at it as like, we're just sharing like knowledge that has like been out there, but we're all struggling with the same things. Like, no one's like superior than someone else because they like do something, like they're better at like being disciplined and shit like that. We all have our own struggles in different ways, but like this knowledge that we're saying is like it's the common shit that everyone needs to hear. But it applies to different people in different ways. So like, I don't see it as like, oh, like it's hypocritical, like if we're not doing this. I think just the awareness in itself and knowing is like, just like, that's like it. That's the key. You know what I'm saying? So like don't beat yourself up, bro. Like,
thank you.
I'm sure like everyone doesn't see it that way, because I don't see it that way.
Yeah. Life is weird as fuck. Life is tough. And it's hard to even like fathom sometimes that other people go through certain things in the same way that you do. It's like, even though we're sitting here with like 3 cameras pointed at us and we're mic'd up and like, you know, we put this out, it like doesn't feel real. It's like when I see that we have subscribers on YouTube or listeners in our analytics, I'm just like, what? Yeah. Like, there's real people listening to this and stuff. And, you know, so sometimes I have to like take a step back and I'm like, man, you know, Jacob, there are other people listening to this and they're going through the same thing. Everybody's feeling like shit. And but at the same time, what really gets to me isn't just the feeling like shit all the time. It's the feeling like shit and knowing what I have to do to make myself feel better, knowing the action I have to take, and I still just can't do it.
And it eats out like your subconscious.
I just can't do it, bro. Yeah. And subconsciously, it just like eats away at me. It's just been a tough time, but it's like, you know, and then there's the argument. It's like, hey, we live in the greatest country on earth. We're in a first world country. There's so much worse that could happen. And that makes me further feel like shit. Cause it's like, hey man, I live in Orange County, one of the richest places in the entire world. I got a $1,000 iPhone in my pocket. So like, what do I have to bitch about? So then my feelings become invalidated, and it's just like, fuck, man. And then social media and the perpetual cycle of negativity, self-deprecation continues. It's a hard rut to get out of. I think I'm taking a bit of what we've said in previous podcasts and number one, kind of the subject of this is I'm being honest with myself, is I'm telling myself, hey, Jacob, like when I was working earlier today, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like on my laptop and I was like, Jacob, the honest thing that you need to admit is that you are procrastinating, you know? And once I was able to like psych myself into it, like, hey man, this is what you need to do. Be honest with yourself. I really sat and got down to work, you know? And, to go back for a minute, talking on previous podcasts and stuff, you know, we always say that action is kind of that initial spark that gets the fire going, and that just could not be more true, man. I see it every day on TikTok. So I will say that Ryan and I literally are probably never going to stop doing this podcast until we move into like a different podcast or something. Like we're probably gonna have 1 million episodes. I will say it until the end of this goddamn podcast, until we die. You need to take action. Even though I felt like shit, even though I felt like a hypocrite, even though social media makes my brain feel like it's going 1,000,000 miles an hour and is going to explode, even though I feel anxiety, even though I'm going through a rough time in my life, today was the first day in about 2.5 weeks that I sat down and I was like, okay, Jacob, you have some shit to do. You need to take action. The first hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm not going to lie, was hard, man. Like for my clients, like I can usually get a smaller scale project, which is what I had today. I can usually get these small scale projects done in like an hour. It took me all day.
The action's the medicine
all day.
For everything, I think. And like
it is.
I was just listening to this Andy Frisella podcast. I forgot which episode it was. It's called Stop the Slide. That's what it's called. Stop the Slide on Real AF. And he basically said, when you get into a rut and you're sliding and you're honest with yourself, usually the first day back or the second day back, you will have to force yourself to do shit. Like it's like, I know we talk about sometimes like we just don't want to force it, but like he literally said it and it makes sense. Like you have to like fucking force yourself for like a day or two. Yeah. Like if you haven't worked out in 3 weeks, you have to force yourself through like I didn't work out for like a week because I was like on top of other shit, but that's not an excuse. I should have been on the working out too. And that first day back, I didn't even complete the whole workout. Like I was just like lazy. I was like, I don't want to do this. But it's like you gotta like force yourself those first 2 days, and then the momentum, Uncle Mo, baby. The dude. I feel like the key to everything, bro, is like understanding that momentum, like and catching it, and like playing with it, and like I feel like that's like everything, because like that's what helps you or like breaks you. You know what I mean? So, but I'm still trying to get better at that too. Like I said too, like this past like I would say like 2 weeks to a month. I'm still doing like my power list and stuff like that, but sometimes I'll cheat and I'll be like, oh, like I didn't really have enough time to like do this task today, so I change it and I'll be like, okay, it's still a fifth thing, so I'll put it. But I caught myself and I'm like, I can't do that shit because that's like
an L.
That's an L, and I'm making excuses. So it's like we're all like learning how to catch ourselves in that way, you know, with different things we do.
Here's the thing. Regardless of how shitty you feel, regardless of how much better you can do, it is a great thing to know that your mindset is even in that realm of self-development. Yeah. Some people
don't even realize.
Some people don't even realize that they're going down a rabbit hole of negativity and not being the best version of themselves. Even if being conscious of your self-development and lack thereof drives you fucking nuts, just having that consciousness and ability to know when you're doing bad is a good trait.
Dude, and like I cannot believe, like I'm learning more and more every day, like who you, like everyone says this because it's so cliche, but who you surround yourself with is like the most impactful thing. Yeah. Like it's the craziest shit. Like I'm realizing like I'm getting so sensitive to like how the energy works with different people. It's like that shit impacts you like quick. Yeah. Like have you ever like stepped into a room with people who were like on it and like motivating, and all of a sudden you felt the exact same way for that whole like the whole time you were there? Like you almost became a different person. Like like that's just like the crazy shit. Like when we meet up with like Nate James or something, and like working on his project, we feel like a different person. Like, you know what I'm saying? But then you get with like a homie who's like, I don't know, like not really like about the whole success thing and just like, you know, fucks off every day or whatever. And you like you're so cool with them, but then like that whole energy is a whole nother energy. And 100%. Then if you get with them every single day, like you start becoming like them, like a little bit each time. And it's like, it's scary. Like, it's scary because sometimes the people you're closest to, like, they impact you in that negative way, but you don't realize it. But it's the smallest, like, in the smallest ways. It's like, it's crazy.
And it's gradual. Like, you're not going to notice it. But, you know, one thing I always think about is, like, if you move to Tennessee and you live there for 5 years, slowly over time, you're going to get that Southern drawl, baby boy. You know what I'm saying? No, and it's the same thing hanging out with people who aren't making the best decisions for themselves or those around them. You're going to pick up on their traits. And I think that's just a natural thing that humans do that probably goes
to adapt.
Deep into our reptilian brain to adapt to our situations. You know, I think that's a natural response. So why would you not surround yourself with people who can influence you, and that reptilian brain inside of you can say, hey, I'm going to adapt to this positivity and success. There's a couple people that always pop into my mind. Nate James is one of them.
Or Sticks. Or like,
Nate James or Sticks or my friend Mikhail, who I've told you about. Like, there's just very, very few people who I've come across who I'm like, oh my God, these guys are on it. And of course they have bad days. You know, of course everybody has a bad days, but there's like a few men and a few women who I've met where I'm just like, wow, these people are on it, and I need to surround myself with people like that. And that you know, everything just ties back into being honest with yourself. Here's something that helps me be honest with myself. I've come to realize this. Okay, Jacob, you're 23. You're still thinking about some bullshit that happened in high school, which was 5 years ago. I'm going to be 24 December 17th, by the way. Everybody turn up!
Hey.
I still think about bullshit in the past that happened, and I'm worried about bullshit in the future that may or may not, most likely, is not gonna happen. And part of that whole self-development process is taking that component of honesty and sitting down, I would say at least once a day. If you can sit down at least once a day, it's like your visualization. It's like your meditation in the morning. You should sit down, you know, every day at least once and say, hey, for 5 minutes, I'm going to stare at this wall, stroke my beard or handlebar mustache or sideburns, mutton chops, whatever you got, or baby face, and you should say, what are things that, you know, I'm worried about? What are things that are totally affecting me? And just be completely honest with yourself, because it's hard. It's hard when, going back to, you're influenced by people. Maybe you're hanging out with a group of people who aren't honest with themselves. Guess what? You're never going to be honest with yourself. It's hard when all your homies want to just go out and like smoke and do stupid ass shit or whatever. I've hung out with so many people who, looking back on it, weren't even my friends. You know, it's just like dumbass fucking people that I hung out with in high school because that's what you do. That's what you do, you know? And like, those people were never honest with themselves. Because I hung out with them, I was never honest with myself. So now my core circle is like 5 people.
100%,
you know? And that's something that, as I enter now into my mid-20s, I'm getting old here. You know what I'm saying, boy? Getting old here in my mid-20s and stuff. It's just, what? Hey, Grandpa, what? It's that component of being honest with yourself has never just been more crucial than any time in my life now. And especially, first off, word to Gary Vee on this. He said, no matter what your age, it doesn't fucking matter. And I totally believe that. Like, if you're 45 and you want to make a career change, and you say that you can't, you're full of shit. Maybe it'll take you 2-3 years, but you can do it. Everybody can make a career change. Real quick, I'll let you talk in a second. But what I was going to say is, especially like people in their 20s, like all of our friends that we blast this to on Instagram and the people we know, like most of the people I know are in like their early to mid 20s. It's like, dude, your life hasn't even fucking begun. You know, 100%. There's no better time to be totally honest with yourself and go after your goals than right fucking now. This is the crucial time. This for most people, you know, for most people. I'm very blessed. I live with my parents. I'm blessed as hell to live with my parents. Like, I have the ability to go out and achieve what I want to achieve. What's my excuse?
100%.
You know?
I was going to say, I think the whole being honest with yourself goes hand in hand with understanding that everything is your fault. Not you. I'm saying like in general. Like, everything is your fault as a person. Like, everything good that happens to you and everything bad that happens to you is in direct relation through your thoughts and your actions. And I don't care what anybody says.
Can I disagree? To an extent.
About yourself, though, not other people's situations.
Well, here's the only caveat or additional point I want to add is because I actually had a friend reach out to me after you posted something on Instagram and you said I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, everything you experience is your fault. You said something like that, right? And I reposted it and I was like, fuck your victim mentality.
Okay.
And my friend, one of my really close friends who I've known for years, she replied and she was like, okay, so when I was sexually harassed, that was my fault. And I was like, damn. So I replied, I was like, you know what? I should have rephrased it. Everything that is 100% within your control, or for the most part within your control, is your fault. You know, like you don't have control over the fact that someone cut you off in traffic. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I know I've watched the Grant Cardone video. We've watched the same video. No, he should take another street. Fucker, how would I know what fucking street to take? You know what I'm saying?
See, here's the thing, because I 100% agree with what she said. That that wasn't her fault. But it's like the moment you start letting, I think it's just moving in that direction of everything's your fault. Just if you move in that direction, your life will be better. Because I think once you start figuring out things oh, but how can this be your fault? How can this be your fault? How can this be your fault? And you start focusing on those things, all of a sudden you're compounding all that shit and you're starting to realize the world, you start to think the world is against you and it fucks you up. So it's I think it's good to recognize little or not, it's not a little thing, but things like that that aren't your fault, but it's just moving that direction.
So you're saying you're saying overall it's better to adopt the notion. Excuse me, goddamn, we are drinking these Trulies on air, man.
Yeah.
So you're saying that overall it's better to adopt the notion that everything's your fault than to take the other extreme and adopt it. Nothing's my fault.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. So on the spectrum, you want to go in that direction.
If you had to choose an extreme, you would choose everything's my fault. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously there's things that happen to you that probably aren't in your control. Mm-hmm. But for one, it's that, and for two, but it is how you react to things. Because you do have a choice in how you react to certain things. That's just my opinion on it. I mean, I've had things happen to me that were not that kind of fucked me up. Mm-hmm. But I could have been I didn't pursue my music career because this one thing happened to me that really messed me up. Why would I want to live that way? You know? So,
dude, that's another thing about being honest with yourself. It's what was really your fault? And 99.99999% of the time, it's your fucking fault.
Well, okay. Well, let me rephrase it then. Okay. Maybe it's not what happens to you is your fault, but it is where you are in your life that is your fault. So where you stand in your life, I think, is your fault. Everything, it's a culmination of all your thoughts and actions to get where you are standing, in your life. That's kind of where I see it.
I'm kind of with that, but I wouldn't say that it's all of your actions and all your fault as to where you are. I would say it is all your fault where you are in relation to where you want to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's that's it. Okay. I was trying to think of a bunch of things to say, but that's it. It's I would say a better way to phrase that would be it's your fault as to where you are in relation to your goal. Because if you just say oh, it's your fault where you are, that's true for the most part, but it doesn't matter where the fuck you are if you don't have something to base that off, if there's no benchmark to evaluate that to.
I think we can both agree that the overall picture, if you get past the complicated intricacies of shit, the whole picture we're trying to get across is you are in control of your life.
Yes.
And the moment you start letting certain things in your life control your future actions and thoughts, in that victim mentality, you're setting yourself up to lose in your life because you think you'll never be happy truly because you are basing your happiness and your freedom on other people, and that's not a good way to live.
Because when you have that victim mentality, you immediately are giving up control of your life. You're immediately saying, I'm not in control of my life. These other people are. And that is a way to disempower yourself, okay? I've said it before. I don't give a fuck who you are. gay, straight, black, white, zim, zer, her, LGBT, fucking if you're from the other side of the planet, I don't care. At least for the most part in America. You truly are in control of your life.
Yes.
And that's something that I'm going to stand by, because when people come up to me and say, you know, well, at least in America and all that stuff, when they come up to me and they say, hey, this happened to me. Oh, this is such bullshit. Why the fuck would this happen to me? All I want to say is like, look, dude, you're in control of your life. Like if something shitty happened to you, then you need to take the actions necessary to turn that around and turn it into a good situation.
And that is such an empowering, freeing thing though. Like
it is.
You can't like people can't listen to this and be like, oh, like I don't know, like you can't get mad at that statement. Like that's such an empowering, freeing thought. Like
no, because people, dude. It's because people are fucking wusses, bro. Because, look, I don't give a fuck. People are wusses. They see some shit. They see someone out there accomplishing some shit, and people have a victim fucking mentality, and they say, oh, this is so bad that this happened to me.
The reason why I'm passionate about this is because I used to have that victim mentality towards my music career.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, the world's against me because I never blew up, and like I have 2,000 followers on Instagram after 2 school tours. And, like, I had that victim mentality. I'm like, dude, like, I'm getting no likes on my Instagram comments, but I feel like I'm dope. Yeah. Why is this guy blowing up on Instagram and I'm not? Like, I used to think like that. You know what I'm saying? And it was such a freeing, empowering thing when I was like, fuck that. I'm dope, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to figure out how to do this shit. I have a different path. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stopped feeling sorry for myself with that victim mentality, and my life changed, and people felt that shit too. Like people will tell me, they're like, dude, like you're inspiring and shit, like what you do, not in a cocky way. I'm just trying to prove a point, like, and like everything got better. So it's like, it's just such a freeing thing to like to let go of that. You know what I'm saying? Or like I would compare myself to like JB and shit. Like, oh, he blew up when he's 16. I'm 23.
Yeah.
Like everyone has a different path, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. No, I get what you're saying. It's like, and that's what pisses me off when people are like, no, I don't think you're totally in control of your life. It's like, why
okay, but
why
it's like,
would you even fucking say that when you can empower yourself and you could give yourself the motivation?
Like you are choosing to give the negative parts of it like control of your life. Like you gotta like, man, like those people have to wake up, bro. Like because until they do that, like they're just gonna be in chains, like. Because they think the world is against them and the circumstances are against them, and that actually compounds to more negativity because you're telling the universe like that's who you are and that's what you attract, so you're gonna keep attracting that. Yeah. So it's like until you like change that thought, like your life is not gonna get better from there. Like in that case, like I don't know. I get really passionate about this because I've seen both sides, and I know like I know for a fact like. You can choose a different thought in those circumstances, and like things will change for you. Bottom line, like, just be honest with yourself, like we were saying, and choose to empower yourself. Yeah, you know, like you can. I think we all go through bad things. We all go through things that happen to us that probably were out of our control, but react to it in a way that will inspire other people and that will drive you forward to where you want to be. So you always have that choice to empower yourself in different situations. Like let's say something bad happened to me, right? I can use that same thing and inspire someone who also went through that. Maybe millions of people that also went through that and start a cause or whatever, and just like you have that choice to do that as a human being. And I don't know. I like to think positive about certain things and move in the direction of like I'm in control of my life and my situation, because that's just that's more of a freeing, empowering way to live in my opinion.
Look, even if you're not in control of what happened, you're in control of how you react to it. And most of the time, it's something that doesn't necessitate a negative reaction that's going to send you down this rabbit hole of like this perpetual negativity.
And dude, also like with the whole thing about like it's your fault thing, like think about it. Like when you're in an argument with someone, the times that you are the bigger person, well, that's why they say the bigger person. Yeah. And you say, you know what, I'm being a dick, and you switch up and you say, hey, you know what, and you generally, I'm really sorry. naturally the other person's gonna mirror that. They're gonna be like, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm sorry too.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? Like it's both your faults. So
You know, one time I was with my mom actually after a doctor's appointment. I was like 17. I just started driving, and I backed my car into this spot. Backed my rig.
Yeah.
My rig into this spot, and I was right in between the lines. And this guy, these guys were like fucking 30, dude. These guys probably worked at Verizon or whatever. And they like come up to the car. They parked right next to me, and this fool wasn't parked in the lines. And he goes, fucking shitty ass parking job. And I'm with my mom. I went, are you talking to me, bro? He went, yeah, I'm talking to you. And I went, dude, I'm parked in between the lines. Like verbatim, that's exactly what we said. I'll never forget, because that was one of the first times like in public someone just talked some shit like that. I was like, what's your problem, dude? And I was like, dude, I'm parked in between the lines. And my mom was like, hey, we're really sorry. We're just, trying to get some food, whatever. And I was like, look, man, I'm really sorry. Like I parked in between the lines. I wasn't like purposely trying to, like be negative to you. I don't even know you. And he was like, he like literally looked down, took a deep breath. He went, hey man, I'm sorry. He was like, I'm sorry. I could tell you guys are nice people. I see the way that you guys reacted. I'm sorry. He's like, you guys have a good day. And I was like, damn.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's totally true that people kind of like mirror the situation and stuff, like, especially men too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never gotten invited to the girl sleepover, so I can't see. I can't really accurately say like how the girls are, but especially, at least like probably what we've experienced, like with guys, it's like if one guy's getting riled up, you already know his boys got, oh, yo, what the fuck's going on here? Whatever. It's like,
people
dude,
people match energy.
Yeah. Like why don't you like facilitate the energy and facilitate everyone grasping onto that positive energy?
And I think that's what leadership is too.
Yeah.
Like as a leader, you need to set the tone of what the energy is going to be.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Like when you go to, it's like when you go to different, different chains of like stores. Like you go to Walmart, you feel a whole nother energy than like you go to Target.
I'm gonna put it on record. I'm gonna put it on wax right now. Fuck Walmart. Okay. Every time you go there. Here's the deal. Hey, you can speak whatever language you want. That's cool. But every employee speaks a different language. I walk up to one guy who's speaking Portuguese. I walk up to one guy who's speaking Taiwanese. One guy speaking English. One guy speaking Spanish. I'm like, can we? If you're gonna speak another language, at least speak the same thing, And then like you can never like I pushed the call button so I could get a fucking oil filter for my car. I'm there for 20 minutes.
And it starts at the top. I think that I think that corporate for, let's say Walmart, looks a whole lot different than corporate at Target. Because I love Target. Because I think that leadership trickles down. Because 100% it's like when you work at a store, you feel it like you feel it from your manager. Like you know what I'm saying? Like you feel that energy from that manager, and like you don't want to disappoint him. And they probably feel the same way going up until it gets to the very top, because that guy at the top is probably a great leader. So it's like
I'll say it from experience. I was in a leadership position at my previous job in college, and I was a building manager for 2 years, and I oversaw staff members.
Yeah.
And I could see the differences in how people acted, in how people thought, in how people viewed their job based upon the leadership skills of the particular manager. Yeah. Because there was a group of managers, right? There was like 7 or 10 of us or whatever, and we each had our own shifts with different staff members, and and
if it's a manager that's like I don't give a fuck and just like whatever, then it's like the people under them, they did the same thing.
It's all transferable. Your work ethic is not only transferable. I think I may have mentioned this in a couple previous podcasts. First off, I think your work ethic is transferable. If you're at one job now and you're saying, "Oh, I'm not in the real world," I don't care what your next job is, that work ethic will transfer and you're going to do shitty. So number one, work ethic has transferability amongst yourself between positions. Don't give me any of that bullshit. Oh, I'm not in the real world yet, whatever. Yeah. I heard that so fucking much in college. Fuck off. That's number one. Number two, it transfers to those around you. Number three, if you're in a leadership position, get your fucking shit together. Okay? And that's not to say that I've never slacked off in a leadership position or whatever, but I learned from it and became a fucking killer leader. And that's why I'm managing an artist.
Yeah,
because I take pride in those leadership skills. And I will go on and say that is the most important thing, is your work ethic, is your honesty with yourself, especially when you're leading a team, because you have people looking up to you.
I know, yeah, like even look at Bezos, bro. I mean, it's controversial because some people think he's like doesn't treat his employees right, whatever that means or whatever. But it's like, why do you think like Amazon is so thriving and like taking over the world? Because like that dude was dedicated and he was like just a leader. Like he was just like this. Like he eats, slept, and eats, slept, and breathed like what he did. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying, and put everything into it. And it's like that just trickles down the line. So
yeah, man. Yeah.
But it takes that self-awareness and that honesty, like to look yourself in the mirror and be like, you know what, this month I sucked.
Yeah. Every day
I felt that, and I probably felt that this past month.
Yeah.
As well, you know. So.
Yeah. And I think that's what's important about having some quote unquote downtime. Mm-hmm. Even if your free time is like working out. Like I knew this girl in college, I would see her in the gym and she knew I worked there. So I would just be like, hey, what's up? I was like, hey, what have you been up to? She's like, oh, I'm like working, doing this internship, whatever. And I'm like, oh, and you're at the gym now? She's like, yeah, this is kind of like my like free time, like my downtime. Yeah. So even if your downtime is still quote unquote like a grind, use that time to reflect. Like you and I went on a hike the other day.
Yeah.
I went on a hike with my dad today. Like that's why I go outdoors so much, is because those are the opportunities where I really get to sit down and I'm like, okay, I need this. Mm-hmm. I need this honesty with myself. You can sit down with any therapist, you can sit down with any family member, but the number one person you got to face in life is yourself. And
well, I think the whole thing of therapy is like talking. It's like talking to another person to learn, like to hear it for yourself, like what it is that you need to fix. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like they're a guide, but you sometimes need to just say it out loud to be like, oh, like this is why I've been feeling like this, because I just said it. And like I didn't realize that because I was internalizing it, but yeah.
Well, look, guys, the bottom line is that self-awareness, that realization of your flaws and awareness of those flaws, and you taking action to make yourself great and improve upon those flaws is absolutely crucial to any sort of self-development, self-growth, and anything along those lines.
Bro, even I watched this interview the other day, a Michael Jackson interview, and he was like, somebody asked him, I'm pretty sure this was like an interview in the 90s, and somebody asked him like, you know, when you made Thriller, your most successful album, the most successful album of all time, mm-hmm. Did you ever think of the numbers and think like, wow, like I really did this? He's like, yeah, you know, sometimes like, you know, I'll think about it because, you know, it happened, but I try not to think about it because I don't want to feel like I've done it yet. Because once that happens, then I go downhill from there. Mm. So like, if Michael Jackson drops his ego from the most successful album of all time, like we all can do that. We all should do that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think that ego again is just like, the devil.
Yeah,
it just like keeps you stagnant.
Yeah. Hit us up on Instagram at JACXBmore, at Ryan Ramirez Official, Jacob at DensityMGMT.com. Peace out.
See ya.
What's in your mind for you and for I? I'm trying to decide when I look in your eyes, yeah. I mean besides, but your feelings inside you. I'm messing up my mind and